Despite some states still needing to count millions of votes, President Trump is now falsely claiming that he has already won re-election. Joining us now, Fox 5 legal analyst Wendy Patrick. Wendy, good morning.
Good morning, Raul.
Okay, so I want your thoughts on when the president said that yesterday. What does that mean when the nation essentially is on pins and needles waiting for an official announcement?
Well, it's true that it looked like the numbers were steadily headed in the president's direction at the time that he made that statement. Although the statement itself, I think, was fueled a little bit by the frustration that he expected to be doing a lot better than he was. You'll notice that Joe Biden said something similar and has continued, as you might imagine, as the trend has changed a little bit by this morning, making those types of statements. You know, it's just rhetoric by both sides at this point. I think both are very frustrated and both expected to have really seen more of a landslide in their favor than we have seen. And who knows whether those numbers will continue to change.
The president said that he wanted a winner declared on election night, but everybody knows, I mean, if you've witnessed any past presidential elections, you know that doesn't necessarily happen every time. So why push that point?
Well, you especially know, Raul, that it wouldn't happen this time because you had states being very definitive that they were not going to keep counting all night and that they intended, some of them, not to really report votes the day after the election, which would be today. So there would be no reason to say that. Again, I think it's the frustration more than anything else. The statement the president made last night that I think was more telling than anything else is that he wasn't a good loser and didn't like to lose. And maybe we view some of his other statements through that lens.
If and when this goes to court, I mean, I keep thinking of 2000 and Bush Gore. I brought that up earlier because that took a while. If this goes to court, what is that process like? Because it seemed like the president was saying, I'm going to go right to the Supreme Court. It doesn't work that way, does it? Can you just say, go to the Supreme Court?
Well, it doesn't work that way. You're right. And when you mention the year 2000 and Bush versus Gore, the significance of that, Raul, here is that it's true that not only did it go to the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court decided the election by a 5-4 margin conservative and handed the election to George Bush by stopping the recount in Florida. Talk about analogies and similarities to the election here, because that's exactly what the president wants to see happen. And who knows whether that's why he phrased it exactly the way he did, having recently installed Amy Coney Barrett, now Justice Barrett. But that's not to say she's going to vote his way. I mean, she's going to do her own thing. She's an independent jurist. But it's also true that any challenges that are being queued up and made today might certainly be headed in that direction.
I'll tell you what, is there a list of states where you just kind of throw a lawsuit at it and see what sticks? Is that the mentality? Or because, I mean, if you look at the numbers coming in right now, all of these states, these swing states are still so close. I mean, you're talking about Michigan has a 12,000 vote difference. Wisconsin here, I can't even do the math. It's 21,000. It's so close.
Oh, it's so close, and it's within 1 percentage point in some of those states. So in terms of what kind of lawsuits you queue up, you don't do it state by state. It's more a matter of procedure, vote counting, absentee ballots, mail-in ballots. How do you count those? Should you count those? How do you make sure that signatures match? So it's the very practical aspects of election integrity that are being challenged. But here's the other wild card. In whose benefit will those point if they're invalidated, if they're counted, if they're inaccurately counted? I suppose that's one of the things the president has been claiming. So you don't even know if legal challenges are going to break one way or another at this point. I was hoping, like you, that we'd have a little bit more direction this morning, but such is not the case yet.
No. Why would 2020 give us anything clear and cut? This is just kind of the way that things have gone so far. With
go
ahead.
I'll give you one. We're all waking up being Americans. We belong to the best, to the most wonderful nation on earth. And that is something good. And that's a silver lining despite the pandemic. So that's one good thing we all have in common.
We can't lose sight of that. Every network yesterday was trying to do the projections with the Electoral College. And there was one that basically there were several that had Biden with 270 and President Trump at 268. If you're talking about one or two, with some congressional districts going here and there, especially in Nebraska. If it's that close with the Electoral College, where do the lawsuits go? Like, what's the process? What is that like as a lawyer?
The process will attack ballots that either allegedly shouldn't have been counted or that weren't counted. Remember what the president said at the last debate, talking about finding ballots in trash cans and the rest of it. I don't know how you reconstruct that if that's the tack that he takes, but those would be the legal arguments. Now, will they hold water? They've probably been readying these lawsuits to be filed for weeks, maybe even for months. So I believe we will see them being filed. The big question is how quickly can courts wade through them and make decisions, because we certainly don't want this election to be held up any further than it needs to be. We're not going to go all the way to January 20th, that's for sure, but we certainly don't even want it to go into December when they have to certify the results.
We're all waiting. Yeah, we're all waiting for all these other states. I just looked, Nevada now, 8,000 votes separating the two men. Wendy Patrick, we're going to speak with you a little bit later on throughout the morning. We thank you as always for the expertise.
Thanks, Raul.